Moses goes to God on their behalf. And this is what the Lord says. The Lord said to Moses, and this is verse 11, I have heard the people's complaints. Now tell them, in the evening you will have meat to eat, and in the morning you will be filled with bread. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God. So here's God, and he is being patient with his people. And he's listening to his people whine and complain after what he's done for them. And he continues to provide for them. They continue to complain. They continue to complain. So then in walks this guy named Jethro. Not Jethro Bodine from the Hillbillies. Just to let you know. It's Jethro. And Jethro is Moses' father-in-law. Now let me read a little bit of background from Jethro. Jethro's religious background prepared him for, rather than prevented him from, responding in faith to God. When he saw and heard what God had done for the Israelites, he worshiped God wholeheartedly. We can guess that for 40 years as Moses' father-in-law, Jethro had been watching God at work, molding a leader. Moses' and Jethro's relationship must have been close, for Moses readily accepted his father-in-law's advice, which we'll talk about here in just a minute. Each benefited from knowing each other. Listen to this. Jethro met God through Moses, and Moses received hospitality, his wife, and wisdom from Jethro. So, Jethro got to know God through his son-in-law, and then he paid it forward. Wife, advice, that ultimately probably changed the course of direction in Moses' life. Remember back in Hebrews 12, 1 and 2. How many witnesses do we have? Jethro just kind of laid back and watched. He watched not necessarily just the conflict, he watched the whole thing kind of break out. And he watched and saw how God had provided again and again and again and again. So, he comes in and he speaks. Now we are in 18. We're going to start on verse 13. The next day, Moses sat as usual to hear the people's complaints against each other. They were lined up in front of him from morning until evening. Okay, 80-year-old man is probably cranky anyway, right? Because he's old. Day after day after day after day after day, they complain. How would your patience be if you heard people complain day after day after day after day? You think God killed them all, right? They lined up to complain. But he felt like his responsibility was to be the liaison between the people and God. When Moses' father-in-law saw all that Moses was doing for his people, he said, "Why are you trying to do this all alone? The people have been standing here all day to get your help." Moses replied, "Well, the people come back to me to seek God's guidance. And when an argument arises, I am the one who settles the case. I inform the people of God's decisions and teach them his laws and instructions." And then Jethro says something to Moses that will change the direction of his life. How many of us make a decision and all of a sudden we are swamped in that decision? And it could be a bad one. It could be physically bad to us. It could be emotionally bad to us. But all of a sudden, it snowballs. Here's what Jethro says to him. He said, "This is not good. You are going to wear yourself out, and the people too. This job is too heavy a burden for you to handle all by yourself."